Welcome back to Top Bins, the show with two men who are struggling with the fact that their teams are deep in the title race with only a few games to go. Two men on opposite sides of that title race. One man with his team firmly in control of their own destiny, another watching frustratingly every weekend as he watches Manchester City just not drop points to anyone. I'm your host, Matt. This is my co-host, Dom. Dom's Milan side are top of SerieA due to their own fantastic performances. Dom, how you doing?
I am happy to be back. I apologize to everybody and to you for not being able to make it last week. But, being adults, life gets in the way every now and then, and we have to, be flexible in our schedules. So happy to be back. Happy to see that Milan is still firmly in first place for now. And like you said, in charge of their own destiny, man. Ready to see what the next few weeks have in store.
Yeah, we're going to get some fantastic games as we get down the wire here, just a few games in each respective league, Serie A and the Premier League. We're going to start in Italy, of course. Milan 1, Fiorentina 0. Pretty much, we're going to be tracking both Milan clubs for the rest of the season because that is where the action very much lies in Italy now. It's one of the best title races that we've had in a few years, definitely aided by the fact that it's obviously two very esteemed rivals. And yeah, I think both teams have provided plenty of drama. Milan have, I think, in some ways been the more dramatic of the two because they have a tendency of very tight games, a lot of shutouts, game of typically a few chances. And that's what this one was. Again, I thought I was watching this in Chelsea and Everton at the same time, and I couldn't help but feel that they were remarkably similar games in the first half. A lot of stop-starting, a lot of just sloppy play, not many chances. Especially in this Milan game, I felt like it's what we've seen from Milan a lot over the last few weeks is that not much going forward, but still very strong defensively. They're good for a strong opportunity or two every game that they concede, but Magnon has been fantastic for them this season. Certainly one of the contenders for goalkeeper of the year in Serie A. Yeah, Don, walk us through this because Milan get a really important 1-0 win thanks to Rafael Leao.
Yeah, I mean they're still struggling with goal scoring and creating chances and not being one-dimensional by attacking down the left side. And, I guess persistence pays off, right? Persistence pays off. And the fact that Rebic gets brought in, Leao moves to the right-hand side, but then finds himself over on the left to slot home a nice finish, nice, well-taken chance. And he was fairly, threatening, really the only person creating chances for Milan. I'm pretty sure he had another chance earlier on in the game that he didn't take fully. Bennett comes on, and I think that's a big thing to talk about. It's like Bennett coming on and really changing the tide of the game. As soon as he came on, Milan looked a lot more threatening. Decent to see Zlatan back. I would have loved to see him score, but, beggars can't be choosers. Fiorentina was threatening at certain times, especially when Torreira and Icone came on. Bonaventura really wasn't letting anything go on in the midfield. He was trying to control the play for Fiorentina as much as possible. Artur Cabral had a couple, opportunities that made me hold my breath, but yeah, it's a very back and forth game. And if Leao isn't the MVP, Mike Magnan is because he made a few saves that basically won this game for the team.
I think Leao is the MVP for the season for Milan. We've, I think, certainly sung his praises a lot on this show, but I wanted to go and look at his stats this year. So he's taken the most shots on the team, which I don't think is surprising because he's also been one of the few attackers that's been healthy for the entire year. That should definitely be mentioned. Someone you highlighted, Rebic, obviously hasn't been in the lineup too consistently this year. Ibra has just not held up at all. And Giroud is similarly. He's had just a few injuries that have put him off in some regular rotation. But Leao has been one of the very few attackers that I think not only has the quality to be starting, every game week, but has actually, been there able to do it. Yeah, his shots on target rate as well is 37.5%, which ranks very high in the squad. And when you consider, some of those other players that are around that mark, certainly qualified players, he's at the top for Milan. He's taking 3.38 shots per 90, 1.27 shots on target per 90. Leads the team in dribbles. He's leading the teams in shot attempts, creations. 157 dribble attempts, a 58% success rate on those, and 242 progressive carries, which also leads the team. Like, if you look at pretty much any advanced, like attacking stat, dribbling stat, well, yeah, it was at the top for Milan in a lot of categories, and he has been the main man for them. And I think he's totally deserved of some of the praise he's gotten. I think people have really turned positively on him, especially in 2022, where I think his performances have been really important for Milan. He's been winning them points. This is not the first time he's done this. Been the solo man to either create the chance or score the goal himself. And I just think he's been fantastic. I think he's been one of my favorite players in Serie A to watch this season, and I think Milan are lucky to have him. And it's interesting because I think this was a guy who's I think unfairly, but was questioned a lot by Milan fans coming into the season, and I think generally the neutrals maybe didn't have the highest opinion of him. You have to remember too, he's incredibly young still as well. Like, this is a guy that's only going to improve from here on out.
I mean, he's absolutely amazing. A lot of people are saying this is his actual breakout year because he really looks like a totally different player than last year, and the player that drew a lot of criticism from the Milan fans. So I'm really happy to see it. I'm loving that he enjoys playing at Milan as well, and that's something that they haven't had in a long time, right? They haven't had these type of dynamic players who enjoy being at the club and want to help that club gain the success that they used to have, right? That's one thing I always tend to say, that Milan fans, and this is tough because I'm a Philly fan, but it's like the Milan fans are like the Dallas Cowboys, where you just live in a decade past your last title, and you just not stop. You don't stop talking about the past. This person played for us. This person played for us. Like, but what have we done in the last 15 years? Nothing. So, aside from we won the Serie A once. 15 years was when we last won the Champions League.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think they played the final in 2007. Don't remember that one as clearly, but.
But yeah, I mean, Milan have the right building blocks, and he seems to just be that guy that always is there and always, playing real well for the squad. It also, was a nice showing by the Tomori Kalulu center back partnership, which I think has a future at Milan. I think that there are a couple, right backs that Milan could target, where they could move forward with Tomori and Kalulu with somebody else in there for depth and really, build something that can be very solid, playing a schedule next season with European soccer and Copa matches and the like.
Well, so here's where it gets interesting too, and I'm glad you brought up European stuff for Milan, because outside of obviously winning the title and everything that comes with that, you also go into pot one in the Champions League, and Milan were really unlucky this year in Champions League that they got put into a group with Atletico Madrid, Liverpool, and Porto. All three of those teams are regular, not just Champions League contenders, but knockout stage teams too. All three of those teams in the last 5-6 years have been not just in the knockout stages either. Liverpool and Madrid have combined for a fair amount of finals in that time frame, and Porto have not been easy, dismissals from the Champions League. So Milan got really unlucky in their, return to the Champions League this season. You get into pot one by, virtue of winning your domestic league, and that should make your group perhaps a little more attainable, a little more navigable, if you want to say, right? Because Inter have had this issue too in the last few years, where obviously this past season they found themselves in pot one, but in years prior, because they hadn't had a lot of that European coefficient points, you get put into pot 3 or 4, where your likelihood of ending up in a group of death is a lot more frequent, or a lot more high. So Milan, besides the very obvious wanting to win the title, if you're looking forward to Champions League 2, where you hope to get some of that extra Champions League money, find yourself back in the knockout stages, winning the title goes a long way to helping that. I think that goes, under the discussion point sometimes too when we talk about Champions League.
That's a good point.
It is to get into those higher groups, because if you can ensure that that November-December Champions League game is a little bit more for rotation rather than you need to win those two to advance, that can do wonders as well for your league standings and where you can get some rest for guys, because typically those are really high pack schedules for pretty much every league. When you get closer to that winter period, that's usually when there's a lot of games being played. But yeah, I think Milan, listen, it's in their control. They obviously, we've talked at length, of course, about their schedule remaining in the season. They certainly do have a challenging one, but Fiorentina, would have been would be one that we looked at and said that's challenging. But you look at Hellas Verona, they're not playing for very much. Their performances haven't been amazing. Atalanta have not been good the last 2 months. They've been wildly inconsistent, have really underperformed in the big games. Of course, that's still, it's still a challenging opponent. I don't want to diminish them, but they're not quite the Atalanta that I think people think of. They've been a step below that this year. And Sassuolo, who just I think are a team that can be beaten, especially on the final day. I wouldn't be shocked to see Sassuolo maybe, just a little eager to get onto the beach. They're not really going to be playing for a whole lot. And I didn't think they, covered themselves in glory this past weekend either with their performance. So, getting thumped 6-1 by Napoli. If a Napoli team that was as desperate and bad, coming into that in terms of form and in terms of morale, can do that to Sassuolo. I think a Milan team needing a win to clinch a title, I think they can make something happen there for me personally. But
I agree.
Let's move to Spezia 3, Lazio 4. Lazio have been the hardest team for us to nail down in the Serie A season because we just get performances like this, which even within the game I think is very. It just speaks to what Lazio have been this year, which is very hard to understand and also inconsistent with results. Not a team that I think has been easy to break down all that much, but they're making a late push for Europa League now. They find themselves in 5th place. They're technically above Roma due to tiebreaker, and they get for all the trouble I think they've had this year and the inconsistency. It's in their hands now. European spots are in their hands. It's in their control. They're obviously led by Ciro Immobile, 27 goals this year. Another golden boot seems destined for him because Vlahovic, with this Juventus team, hasn't been scoring quite at the rate he was for Fiorentina. I think what's interesting about Lazio, I was just trying to read a little bit more about them, do a little more deep dives on them because I feel like I'm just trying to understand Lazio a little bit better. They have wildly outperformed their XG this year. Their expected goals, right? This year is 50.6. They have scored 70. That's they've scored 20 more goals than expected. I had to do a double take as well. That's a huge margin.
Yet somehow they're still this inconsistent team that we see all the time.
So they've been involved in some real high-scoring games, and obviously the defense has really been an issue for them, and that speaks definitely through the advanced numbers as well, where they're just constantly giving up high-quality chances, and it's not much of a surprise. And they don't have, I wouldn't say the best keeper in their back line. I think he's not the best in terms of quickness, I would not say. And we've seen them have some issues just defending teams that press them. They don't commit very many errors this defense, so they've only had 2 errors leading to a goal, which is one of the lowest in SerieA. And they have the most possessive touches in the middle third of any team in SerieA. Highest short passing numbers, which is what we associate with Maurizio Sarri, right? The quick. Very short touches, very short passes, concise triangles, things like that. And they're good at building into the final third, but not the 18-yard box. When you look at the progressive passes in the final third, it's all good numbers, all looking good. They just do not find themselves in the box somehow very often. And when they do, they're creating good, high-quality chances for themselves, but they don't take a ton of shots. They're not a high-volume team. I really think if they had perhaps a more, I don't even know what it is. I think maybe they need better wingers, but they need some more progressive dribblers within this team. I mean, if Maurizio Sarri could get Eden Hazard back, I think he would love to have that happen for him, right? But that's the type of player that they're missing. Is that I think extra bit. They have a good industrious midfield, and Luis Alberto has worked themselves into Maurizio Sarri's favor. There's a lot of inquest about whether or not he fit. He's one of the top assist leaders in Serie A, and I think that speaks for itself. But Lazio, they've just been a hard team. They've been a really hard team for me to wrap my head around because the performances have just been across the board. Even within this game, the performances across the board. It felt like they were going to lose this. Felt like they were going to drop points in this game, and then they roar back at the end. And Acerbi makes up for his grin after the Milan game. I think in the hearts and minds of Lazio fans.
I mean, it's weird because in my opinion, I think that to get the most out of Immobile, you need a center, like a center forward or like a secondary striker, somebody like sitting in behind that kind of take off some of the pressure. That's where I think they need to look. I think they can make do with their wingers. They need somebody else to kind of supplement that midfield where there's like SMS, Luis Alberto, and then somebody else a little more advanced. You can even get like a two-way midfielder and find somebody there, but that lowers so it's kind of a small list, right? It's very weird. I mean, you could see like even last week we talked about it in the Milan game. Like there are a lot of times where they're just getting pressed and cannot handle it, and they just let up chance after chance after chance. And even when they're like on and their goalie's making saves and this and that, one's bound to go in. Two are bound to go in because you're just letting chance after chance after chance. And against high quality teams, that's not going to get the job done. It can kind of get the job done against these lower tier teams, right? Like even Spezia scored 3 goals within 56 minutes. They were up 3-2, and they had to claw their way back over the course of the game to end up winning. So it's just very weird. The stats, the eye test, like everything about Lazio this season is just weird. And if the front office decides that Sarri is still the guy to move forward, I'm curious to see what he does moving into next season.
Because this episode of Top Bins is brought to you by Bino Board. Bino is the next big tabletop game for your man cave or she shed. You should think of this game like paper football meets foosball, and you've got Bino Board. It's incredibly fun, incredibly engaging. It's a game and lifestyle brand based in Phoenix, Arizona. Bino's goal is to provide the highest quality boards and a true brand experience. Every part of their boards have been tested time and time again for the best possible playability so that every Flicker's experience is a positive one. So when you're buying from Bino, you're getting the good stuff only. Bring the world together with Bino and hear someone's story from the other side of the pitch. You can go to binoboard.com and use our code BINOUSP for 10% off your order, including the newly launched Team USA World Cup board and merch, because we do have the World Cup year, right? We got the World Cup to look forward to. USA will be back in it, so why don't you go and get something really nice and decorative for when you're hosting your World Cup viewing parties. That's code BINO, which is BINHOUSP, for 10% off your order at binoboard.com.
Yeah, it's going to be a big summer for them. I think they definitely need better fullbacks. They definitely need, I would say, replacing center backs too, because Patrick is not it, and he's been relied on a bit too much this season. Acerbi, I think, is okay.
He's not getting any younger.
Yeah, he's certainly in his elder statesman years at this point. I think there's a few key players within this team that are similar, right? That probably need replacing. Like Lucas Leiva is still someone that I don't think this year has been too kind to him. I think you're seeing some of that aging a little bit. Immobile himself isn't getting any younger either. This is his age 32 season. He's still playing fantastic. I don't want to pretend like he's not, but you might only have maybe 2 more of this top level Immobile seasons.
Well, yeah, it seems like they depend on him a little too much still, and that's why I was saying like get somebody to kind of work off of. And Lazio had it last year. They had Joaquin Correa, who played in behind, and Lazio was that much better. And now he went with Inzaghi to Inter, and it kind of just screwed their whole flow up. They need somebody, in my opinion, to stay behind that striker, take the pressure off Immobile, because you could see in some games he gets frustrated because he gets no support, and try to extend how much of a career he has left at performing at a top level.
Yeah, so Lazio have Sampdoria, Juventus, Hellas Verona on their schedule for the rest of the season. Not the easiest schedule. Juventus, I think, makes that a little bit more challenging. They're also fighting, of course, with Roman rivals, Roma, who do have Leicester in the Europa Conference League semifinal this week. But Roma have Fiorentina, Venezia, and Torino. I would probably say the easier of the 2 schedules. remaining, and Atalanta have Spezia, Milan, and Empoli on the final day. So all those teams have a top team still to play. Those are the main contenders right now for that spot. Fiorentina can also, of course, by virtue of winning their game in there too, make their case made. Fiorentina have slowed down a little bit. They've had some bad results the last few weeks, and I'm not too optimistic about their chances. And they have Roma, Sampdoria, and Juventus on the final day. Challenging schedule for Fiorentina, but if they win those games, it gives them certainly a good chance of making Europa League. But I just think the momentum is very much against them at this point. And speaking of momentum being against them, Cagliari, no more Walter Mazzarri there. Another managerial change for Cagliari. Salernitana got a big point, drawing against Atalanta. The great escape is on, it seems. They have a game in hand on 26 points. They're right behind Cagliari, who have 28. It's not over for the Salerno boys. We had considered them dead in the water many times over. They might be proving us wrong. I'm looking forward to seeing, how the season winds up for them, because they also have, I would say, winnable games. They have Venezia, Cagliari. I mean, Cagliari right there.
Those are going to be some good matches to watch, low key.
Salernitana Cagliari is literally a relegation decider. I think if someone's able to come out with 3 points in that game, they're staying up.
A little bit of Ribery magic, little flashback ribs.
Yeah, perhaps. Then you have Empoli and Udinese on the final day. Those are winnable games for Salernitana, who have been pretty good the last few weeks. A good point today against Atalanta. You've had 1-3 straight against Sampdoria, Udinese, and Fiorentina. Don't count them out. That's all I'm saying. If Salernitana are up next season, it's by I hesitate to say the grace of God, but I mean
it's because we were talking about it we talked it into existence.
I don't think we were wrong in believing that they were going down. That's all I'm going to say. But that Salernitana Cagliari game is one to watch this Sunday. I know that I will definitely be tuning in for that one. Don, let's move to England, where we did have another relegation team in the front lines, in the headlines here. Everton 1, Chelsea 0. It's funny, right? Because Chelsea have a habit of just not doing what you want them to do. I think everyone,
it's bad. Sorry.
I think everyone kind of wanted Chelsea to win this one and to push the narrative a little bit further about Everton going down. I think that would have been a good laugh for all to be had, and instead we're sitting here and it looks like Leeds might be the team being pulled into the relegation zone instead.
I was going to say, it's bad when – so I have a student. He's an Everton fan.
Oh, boy.
I feel sorry for his soul. He comes into class this morning ecstatic, and I knew nothing about the game. I had no idea that this happened. And he sits down, and he looks at me and goes, Mr. P, did you watch you know why I'm so happy? I'm like, why are you happy? He's like, my team won this weekend. This time I forgot he was an Everton fan. So I was like, Chelsea? And he's like, no, Everton. They beat Chelsea. And I go, what? And he's like, yes. Oh my God. It's bad, man. Like, this is, how does Chelsea lose this, man?
Well, I'll tell you, Jordan Pickford made five absolutely unreal saves in this game, and Chelsea had good high quality chances. It wasn't like they were completely just stifled by Everton. The first half, like I said, I watched it it was on the same time as Milan Fiorentina. It was a nice little double screen action for me, and I can't help but feel that the first halves were very similar, just incredibly sloppy in the first half. This one, a lot of stop start, a lot of fouling. No team really getting any kind of rhythm, which I think is very much what Everton wanted. Playing very defensive, similar to how they played against Liverpool a week ago. 720 passes to 197 in favor of Chelsea. That's one of my favorite stats to pull out, because I think sometimes it can just very much show how one team can dominate a game and still lose in this instance, because Everton get good pressure and force a mistake by Azpilicueta, and Richarlison scores. Interesting
78% possession.
Yes. not even the worst. That's not even the worst possession stat that Everton have really had in their Lampard either. Like they've been just as bad in some games there. It's not even like the low point for them. What's interesting is Richarlison picks up a flare that was thrown in the field and threw it into the crowd. It's going to be fascinating to see if he gets suspended for that, because if he does, that's a huge miss for them. I mean, there's no two ways about it. We'll see what happens disciplinary wise.
That's a Balotelli move right there.
And this is Everton's fourth straight win at home against Chelsea in the Premier League. This has just been the case for Chelsea going to Goodison Park for whatever reason, have not been able to pick up points. I think they probably deserved something more this game when you consider some of the chances they had, but they had to finish them off. Pickford was denying them every step of the way. I think this one really speaks. Rudiger had the most shots for Chelsea in this game with 4. It kind of says it all when your center back is charging forward, taking pot shots, that maybe you're just out of ideas and unable to break a low block down. A lot of certain question marks being posed to the front three for Chelsea, as they have been all year. It's been, I think, one of the biggest talking points of the Premier League. Obviously, Lukaku not even getting into this game and has not been effectual at all. I think a lot of fans, too, are frustrated with Christian Pulisic. His dad was taking sneak disses on Twitter about Chelsea because he's not getting, the time necessarily he deserves, whereas Timo Werner is getting his chance to, I don't know, be a Make-A-Wish kid out there because he's been ineffectual. Kai Havertz, as good as he is, I love Kai Havertz, still is not the best at being like the hold-up guy, and I think sometimes he gets dependent on a little too much by this Chelsea team to just do a little bit of everything, and I'm not sure that's quite his talent yet. He's certainly getting there, though, and in this game, I think was just isolated way too much. And I don't get why Chelsea went with a back three here. I think it really worked against them. A back three against a team playing in the low block doesn't really give you, I think, the advantage that you want it to. Whereas if you play with a 4-back, you could just drop 2 guys back and have so much more width and solidity in the midfield. But that is, of course, how Chelsea have played so much this year and so much under Tuchel. So who am I to say? But I did feel like that was a big part in this. The midfield is just not able to progress the ball in a way that I think helps the attackers. And I think a lot of Chelsea's system, as we've seen this year, is dependent on the fullbacks. If Reece James isn't at his best, then obviously miss Ben Chilwell, and Marcos Alonso's not at his best. Sometimes this team can sputter a little bit offensively.
That's actually, it's funny that you say that, because that's what I used to run in FIFA, and the same thing. If I was not good with my left backs and right backs, I would get destroyed because of the way I played. But yeah, man, I think Chelsea just wanted to help out Frankie Lamps, be like, hey, we don't want to see, that's not good for our brand. It's not good for your brand. Like, just let us play with the ball. Let us play with the ball, and then we'll let you score. And like, you can stay up.
Say something bad about if the most recent Chelsea manager, besides Tuchel, got relegated with Everton at his next job. I do think that's a bad omen for them. Bad luck. Chelsea 13 errors leading to a shot on goal that is tied for first in the Premier League this season with Brighton and Leicester. So, they've been good defensively, but they have been prone to these mistakes, and we saw it against Everton. Sometimes if you're able to press this back line, they don't hold up to that pressure maybe as good as you'd like them to. But yeah, interesting for Chelsea, of course, because now their third place spot is perhaps a little bit under question. They lose to Arsenal, and that certainly doesn't help matters. And now the momentum kind of seems to be against them. For Everton, speaking of momentum, this is a big momentum game for them. Of course, Leeds lost to Manchester City 4-0. They're being pulled into the relegation fight now. Burnley, with a dramatic late winner, certainly heaped the pressure onto Everton. But it's really between Leeds and Everton now. And Everton do have a game in hand. But here's the thing. Everton still have a very tough schedule. They have Leicester. Now it's this Sunday. That's after the Europa Conference League semifinal. We've seen that Leicester, like we just talked about, or we will talk about, I should say, haven't been playing their very best and have been distracted. They play Watford, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Arsenal. It's still a tough way to close out the season for Everton. Not a lot of guaranteed 3 points anywhere in that. You look at Leeds' schedule; it doesn't get much better actually. They have Arsenal, Chelsea, Brighton, Brentford, and Aston Villa on the final day. I'm sorry, not Aston Villa. That's a club friendly. It's Brentford on the final day. That's a tough schedule too. Leeds need to, and it's strange because Leeds haven't been playing bad ever since they switched to Jesse Marsh. They've actually had pretty good results. They've had a good run of form. It felt like they had gotten themselves out of that relegation zone But they do find themselves back in it, and they have a tough challenge here to close out the season. And Burnley as well have still some work to do, of course. They have Aston Villa, Spurs, Aston Villa again, and Newcastle on the final day. So it's going to be fascinating. The relegation fight here is I think one that everyone's keeping a really close eye on, because there's three teams. Any of those three teams, I think, could go down.
That's entertaining. Nobody wants to go down the championship. That's like the worst.
Very true.
It's the worst of the worst.
Spurs 3, Leicester City 1. This felt like we're in the Conference League semifinal, so we're not really worried about this game from Leicester. Definitely a rotated lineup for them, and I think it very much showed in the performance where Spurs. Here's the thing about Spurs that I've noticed in a lot of the big games. They are happy to concede possession to teams, especially teams that they think will dominate the ball and will be a little bit more progressive and open in some of these bigger games. That's what they've done. They had 40% possession in this game. That is the lowest that they've had since 29% against Manchester City, which, of course, they won that game 3-2. This is just that's how they've played it under Antonio Conte. It hasn't always been, I wouldn't call beautiful. It hasn't been like idyllic football at times, but it's worked. And you have Heung-min Son playing as well as he has in recent weeks. If you can give him any even half chance, his second goal, I don't even think you can call that a half chance. It's one of the best goals of the season for sure. But he's been fantastic, of course. And when you're playing against Leicester City, who have conceded 14 corners against this season, that is the worst in the league. Harry Kane's opened the scoring off of a corner. I don't know what it is about Leicester City and their inability to defend properly off set pieces, but that certainly needs to be changed and worked out over the summer. Spurs, a big win, obviously, for their top four chances, keeping pace with Arsenal at this point. That's what it's all about for them, is getting into Champions League next year.
I just have one statement to make. But can he do it in the Premier League? Oh, wait, yeah, he can. Dejan Kulusevski is absolutely a baller right now for Spurs. 2 assists, off the bench, and he just keeps producing for them. Coming over from SerieA, little Swedish product. Originally he lit the league on fire when he was at Parma, and kind of wavered at Juventus. But that was the one thing. Can he do it in the Prem? Can he do it in the Prem? I think he has more than enough on his resume now to show that he can do it, at least for this season. I'm excited to see what he has to bring for the future of Tottenham and the coming seasons, because kid's got talent, and he's really making a fight for that starting wing, so that they have Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, and him on the right. That's a pretty entertaining and fire ready front three for Conte to have next season.
Yeah, I think they definitely improved when he came on, as opposed to Lucas Moura. 5 minutes later, he's setting up Heung-min Son with a nice mazy run, easy pass in the middle, and Son, his second assist, he just lays it off to Son, and Son curls it in from like 25 yards. He didn't have much to do there, but an assist.
An assist is an assist.
Yeah,
we count
absolutely.
Those.
You get the assist bonus no matter what. He's been fantastic. I think, again, I think we've retreaded a lot, but we're really high on him coming from Juventus, and he's certainly paid dividends to Spurs. I think they're definitely going to be. I think he's there technically on a loan with an obligation to buy, or after like certain matches played, it triggers some clause. Rest assured, he's going to be a Spurs player. And it just shows too that Juventus, sometimes I think people can be a little too antagonistic about Juventus and some of the players there, and Allegri's a football terrorist, and that you can't be a good offensive player there. I think Kulusevski was just asked to do too much defensively, where he's so clearly gifted at carrying the ball and finding good passes and setting up teammates. Like, he's just very good at that, as we've seen. He could certainly do good defensive work. He excelled when he was asked to do it, but I think it just took away one of his great strengths. It reminds me a lot of Bernardeschi in when he went to Juventus. I think that similar types of players for me, at least in their young stages. Kulusevski, I think, a really good choice getting out when he did. Again, I don't want to make it seem like Juventus are career killers, but I just think there are certain styles of players that maybe don't fit under Allegri's system. Hey, the man has won numerous amounts of titles. I'm not
young,
gonna
yeah, young
not
players,
gonna diminish him.
young players,
Yes.
players. I will say that because when he brings in those veterans or players that have somewhat made a name for themselves already, like Arturo Vidal went on to where he went to Bayern from Juventus, right, and won trophies there. So, and he went to Barcelona and won trophies. Like if Allegri gets his veterans and name players, Juventus is a good team. But if you go to Juventus as a young, breaking talent under Allegri's system, sit in line, bud. You didn't prove yourself in this league yet, so now you're gonna have to prove yourself to me. And it just does not work well, man. That old school mentality of like paying your dues and like having to earn your worth. Like you'll come to Juventus, you won't get into the first team, so you get loaned out to a Serie B team. And then you've got to put in your work. And then once you do enough there, you'll put in your work on the bench. And then if you decide to stay at Juventus long enough, maybe, just maybe, you'll make your way into the starting lineup. But like, I just don't know how he runs a club like that and then is so successful for years.
He knows how to
make
win games. He just knows how to win games. And I think there's a reason that maybe the Champions League hasn't gone as well, because that's where I think you have to be a little bit more open-minded. Not that I think he's necessarily closed-minded, but I think he is really suited towards winning leagues because over the course of a season, he knows how to win. He just does. And it's cliched. It's a narrative, whatever you want to say, but the titles speak for themselves. Now, they did obviously for a lot of those years have a significant advantage over Italian clubs. And they're going through obviously a pretty significant transition too, we should add. Like Juventus of the last few years has transitioned quite a bit. And for as not great as they've been this season, they're probably going to finish third. That's good. Like when you consider, like when you can just consider, how inconsistent they looked at times last year, and I think there's a lot of disconcerting stuff there. They're probably going to finish third this season, and I don't think anyone. If you told me Juventus were in the title race next season, I don't think that's that crazy. I mean, we were almost talking about it a few weeks ago until they lost to Inter that they could sneak into the title race. It wasn't inconceivable. I think we were speaking about it in whispers because we didn't want Allegri to hear us. So I think Juventus obviously get a lot of stink because of some of the players that they've left, but it is what it is. Leicester, it's a disappointing year for them. I've already seen the fans turning on Brendan Rodgers, and all I can say as someone that saw this man operate on a high level, get him out while you can. That's it. Because the performances have gone south. If he wins the Conference League for them, fair enough. That's going to be interesting to see, if they can advance this Thursday and get to a final. Hey, listen, for Leicester, that's I mean, really for any club left in that competition, winning the Europa Conference League is.
It's their first trophy since Premier League, right?
No, they won the FA Cup last year, which, again, big achievement. Fair. But, it felt like this year has been a step back, from where they wanted to be. The last few seasons, they've obviously been in qualification spot for Champions League and have fallen out of it in like the last few weeks of the year. That has to be frustrating for the fans and for the team. So we'll see this year if they can get into the Conference League and, win that final. Because listen, that's a big trophy to win, for Leicester. That would be a huge success in the season. Let's look ahead. Speaking of European football, because we have Liverpool, Villarreal tomorrow, Real Madrid, Manchester City on Wednesday. Liverpool up 2-0 on aggregate. Manchester City are up 4-3 on aggregate against Real Madrid. Dom, any feelings about who is advancing? Liverpool have to be considered, I think, the heavy favorites to advance. City are certainly the favorites going back to Madrid, but we've seen this Real Madrid team, as we've said time and time again on this show, that you can't ever be certain of anything with them, except that they will probably have another goal in them. What are your feelings going into the second leg of the semifinals here?
One thing I almost feel certain of is that Benzema is about to pop off for City in the second game, or for Madrid in the second game. Yeah, Benzema's going to pop off for City. No, I do think Benzema's going to pop off for Real Madrid and, stake his claim in a final. There have been quotes coming out, not kind of to like stir drama, but like, him talking about like playing with Ronaldo and did Ronaldo hinder his his production and things like that. And he said, no, I was still a good player at Real Madrid. I was still world class. Ronaldo's just that good. Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of like, I guess, one of those like talking points kind of in response to what people were saying about Ronaldo, how he's a career killer as well. Right. But anyway, I do think that Madrid have a slight advantage playing at home against City. Yeah, they're down by a goal, but they can put up multiple goals in an instance. So, and then I think Liverpool moves on. Liverpool moves on. It's going to be a Liverpool-Madrid final, and that's going to be very, very interesting. I know that Salah has some unfinished
business.
So
for sure.
Tick tock.
I can't help but feel that we're seeing City advance. Liverpool have to be considered the favorites. I consider them as much. I think they should be, with a 2-0 advantage going to Villarreal, should be winning that. And I can't help but feel that City. The problem is that they were cutting through Madrid so often in that first leg that I don't see how City don't score 2 more goals.
You don't think Ancelotti makes proper adjustments?
Listen, I love Carlo.
Puts the other eyebrow up.
I love Carlo. A supreme tactician he is not. In fact, a lot of the most successful Madrid coaches of the past decade, Zinedine Zidane included in that, have not been supreme tactical masterminds. That's not to say they don't have any tactical understanding whatsoever, but Carlo Ancelotti is the pre-evolution of Zidane in that he was the original Just Vibes manager. I think people forget that. Zidane somehow won that label over. I guess you win 3 straight Champions Leagues. Fair enough.
Just vibes.
But he is the original Just Vibes guys. The Bayern players literally forced him out of the club because he was just Vibes. They didn't train hard enough. There wasn't enough tactical work in the train. They're like, he just lets us hang out and just work it. He is suited to big personalities and soothing egos and understanding too in games that they know the moments that are important and how to take over games. And some of that is some luck, but I do think that there's just sometimes guys have that quality of understanding, and I think Carlo Ancelotti is one of those guys. I just think City have looked the better team. And, it does, they have a 1-goal advantage. I think they're good for it. I think we see a Liverpool Manchester City final, which my throat just got really dry saying that. I'm really uncomfortable now.
What is this? How many times are you going to have to play them this year? This is going to be the 5th?
This time? Would be if we made the final, it would be the 4th. So
sick.
on a very real level, not in love with that possibility, but it is what it is. Looking forward to it either way. In the Europa League, we have RB Leipzig with a 1-0 advantage over Rangers, and then Eintracht Frankfurt with a 2-1 advantage going back to Germany against West Ham.
Let's get an all-German final. Let's get an all-German final.
We just might end up with an all-German final here. I think Leipzig had to be considered the favorites, and it's interesting. Frankfurt have actually had the better performances away from home a lot in Europe this year. Famously, obviously, it's not just the Camp Nou anymore. It's the Spotify Camp Now, of course. Have to get the branding right, or else we get fined, I think. Yeah, the Spotify Camp Now. They won there, but it wasn't the most convincing performance at home. West Ham rested, I think, with the idea that they'll go away to Thursday and try and get themselves into the final. I think West Ham will do it. I think we're going to get Leipzig-West Ham in the final. I'm really looking forward to that. I think a lot of the world would unite behind West Ham somehow. They still have to play City this year, so I'd love it if they had something to look forward to at the end of their calendar, so they're a little bit more motivated rather than down in the dumps. There's my personal bias involved, but yeah, I think West Ham Leipzig is what I'm seeing.
I want an all German final. I want Frankfurt to keep going. You know why. You know why. And if you're a real one of the pod, you know why too.
Okay.
Listen. I need my man to win a trophy. I need that.
You are certainly committed to the agenda, and I respect it. Marseille Feyenoord. Marseille Feyenoord in the Europa Conference League semifinal. Feyenoord with a 3-2 advantage there. It's going to Marseille in that one. Roma Leicester 1-1. Going back to Rome. Tough one to call. I think we get Rome Marseille, and what a beautiful final that would be. Marseille
Yeah,
in the
that's a
Europa
nice
League
final.
final a few years ago. Roma, I tell you this, Dom, you better watch out because Roma could be the first Italian team to win a European trophy in a decade, and it would be total Roma fashion for them to win the Conference League and act like it's the Champions League.
Listen,
And I know how much you hate the Twitter Roma fans. I don't.
There-
I love them.
there would be nothing better than for them to get to the final and bottle it. So the picture of Florenzi with the bonsai tree just floods the Twitter sphere. That would be a perfect day for me to see Roma lose in a final, and then to see that Roma's still only trophy.
Brother, you got a lot of hate in your heart. You got a lot of hate in your heart. That's all I'm going to say. Get right with God. Get right with God.
Listen. They win one Champions League game against Barcelona because of Manolas, and
okay, it's one of the most famous. I got to interject. Time out on the play. I got to interject. That's one of the most famous comebacks until Barcelona got come back on next year from Liverpool. That's come on. You got to give them some credit there.
That's their trophy. That's their trophy. When you walk in,
what other Italian team has made it far in their Champions League since then? Name me. I'm all ears.
I mean, listen.
All ears.
Listen,
No. Let me hear. What other Italian team has made it to the semifinals?
What's the year span we're talking about? What's the year span we're talking about?
Since then, since the 17-18 season, what other Italian team has made it to the semifinals of the Champions League?
Juventus.
No. Juventus have not been in the semifinals of the Champions League. They are the last Italian team to make it to the semifinals of the Champions League. I'm sorry, Dom. That's just the facts, baby. I know it's not great for the brand, but
I don't care.
You know what?
When's the last time they've been relevant in the Champions League?
Jeez. Since 17-18 when they were in the semifinal. What do you mean? They had an amazing comeback. Oh man, you're such a hater. I love it.
It's 5 years. 5 years. I'm allowed to say that now. 5 years is a lot of time.
Yeah. How long is 10 years?
Hey. Same amount of time we've been out of high school, so.
Yeah, don't remind me of that. You obviously have Spurs Liverpool this weekend. I think that's one of the biggest games, not just because of the title race, but that's always the big one anyway. Anytime the top 6 teams are going at each other. For the Serie A title race, you have Hellas Verona, Milan to look forward to this weekend. That's obviously the big one. I'm trying to look who did Inter play this weekend. Struggling. Is this the Coppa Italia weekend? Am I going crazy here? Why can I not find the Inter schedule here?
Wait, are you on Who Scored?
I'm on all my apps. Oh, Inter play Friday. That's why, of course. They play Empoli on Friday. So Inter play Empoli. Milan against Hellas Verona. Inter do have the advantage of playing Friday. They'll be able to put the pressure on Milan going into that, but it's all under Milan's control now. That's the big thing. And then City play, I believe, Newcastle. Yeah, Newcastle Sunday morning. So those are your title games to look forward to. And this weekend, Dom, that's it for us. Anything to say before we get out of here? That isn't just Roma slander.
Can it be Juventus slander? No, I'm kidding.
That I'll accept. I'll accept Roma,
right, cool.
Juventus slander.
Cool. Juve merda. All right, never mind. Listen. No, thanks for tuning in every week and supporting the pod. I hope that your team wins this weekend, as long as it's not playing my team or Matt's team, or it's Inter or it's Roma. So, yeah. Have a good week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Hard to argue with any of those. I agree with their sentiment. I hope everyone enjoys the games this weekend. Hope you enjoy maybe some nice weather. But we'll talk to you next week. We'll know the Champions League finals, we'll know the Europa League final, Europa Conference League final, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get a little more clarity on who is winning the title in Italy and England this season. But until then, we will talk to you next time.